Yo, what's poppin'? Zach Lesage back here from the Shuffle Squad. Today we're going to be going over the top 10 best decks in late July 2023. The World Championships are right around the corner. League Cups, League Challenges are in full swing. And of course, lots of events are going around the world, including online events. Which decks made the top 10? Well, we'll find out during this video here. All of the lists are available in the pinned comment if you're watching on YouTube. You can copy and paste those right into PTCG Live. In this video, if you do not have access to it in the pinned comment, you can take a screenshot of any of the decks here, and you can look at the picture for them. Which decks make the top 10? Put your best guesses in the comments below. Give this video a like, and we'll catch up with y'all once we jump into the video. Be sure to check out all of the sponsors of the Shuffle Squad, whether you're looking for graded cards, you're looking for singles, sealed. We have all affiliate codes with all of our great sponsors, so be sure to check them out in the description below. Thank you so much for supporting us. Kicking off our list at number 10 is Fusion Mew. Now, Fusion Mew is kind of, it's been good for a minute, but the version of this deck it's just not necessarily keeping up with the metagame. A lot of dark type decks out there trying to counter Gardevoir, and there's also a lot of Spiritomb being played in a lot of top decks, and a lot of Lost Zone box decks being played. I think this deck actually has a chance to kind of jump into the metagame again, and we might see it rise up in the next upcoming weeks, because this deck could compete with Arceus decks and Lugia decks that might come in to counter our current metagame. So Mew is one of those ones that we want to watch in, and if you're a Mew player, you're probably looking at the same kind of matchup spread that I'm at, where it's like, it's not great now, but it could shape up to be pretty nice. Overall, I think Mew is a generally solid deck, so if you picked up that League Battle deck, or if you're just a Mew main, I think that these are some solid choices to play at League Cups, League Challenges, and even potentially the World Championships. Coming in at number 9 this week is Arceus Giratina V-Star. Now, this deck is kind of the OG path, judge, lock your opponent after using Starbirth. The issue that we have with this deck is that Lost Tina is kind of on the prowl, it's on the rise, and that's a deck that also plays Path. They could drop Path against this deck, so being a Path-only deck does have some drawbacks. So if your opponent only plays Path as well, they can do everything that they want, Path you first, and you don't have an answer to it. Otherwise, this deck does seem to hold its own against a lot of Lost Zone box decks, does hold its own against a lot of decks that have abilities, and is generally a strong choice. I think this deck's never a bad choice. It's probably never the right choice. It could be the right choice for a League Cup or League Challenge because it's generally pretty consistent, but at the same time, I also think that this deck is a little bland for my takes. If you're an Arcetina main, my bad, I'm not trying to offend y'all, but I do think this deck is generally acceptable, just towards the bottom of the list. Here's the newcomer that we got going on our list. Hopping into number 8 is Origin Form Palkia V-Star Chien-Pao. Now, we have seen some Chien-Pao decks run Origin Form Palkia V-Star, but this one doesn't run Baxcalibur. We've seen this recently come up at the late night series, making top 4 here and there, and at my own like kind of area in the GTA, Cali has been seeing a lot of success with it. So shout out to them for seeing success with such an inventive deck. I think that this deck is actually getting better and better positioned as we go forward. And here's my own take on the deck with some suggestions from Sawyer Melbourne. This is a deck that I hear a lot of players might be playing towards the World Championships, so I do like to kind of put it in. It might be a little bit low, but I think as the upcoming weeks kind of come up towards the World Championships and League Cups and League Challenges, I totally imagine that this deck is going to be a real deck. So if you haven't picked it up already, I think you could pick up a lot of these cards with the Chien-Pao EX Battle deck or the Origin Form Palkia League Battle deck. There's a lot of really good ways to build this deck, and I think that this is one of the better ways. Again, we're just trying to build up a big attacker. Big attackers are good in this format right now. Keep it real. I think this deck is probably really good. So this one is one to watch out for. It might be rising next week. Not trying to spoil any surprise of anyone playing this towards any events or anything else like that. Legitimately, I just try to make this list as accurate as possible. Oh no, how the mighty has fallen. One of my favorite decks of all time, Arctur Umbreon. You might be like, Zach, why do you love this deck? I just like it. Has fallen to number 7. A lot of competition has come out here from Chien-Pao based decks and Arceus decks. and also just dealing with Tina decks. So I think that this deck is becoming a little bit less positioned as other decks have kind of edged their way out of the metagame, and this deck has also found its way towards the bottom. Now, similar to the Mew deck, if the metagame changes and Lugia decks and other decks that this deck has a good matchup against end up seeing a little bit more success, I think that this deck does have the opportunity to kind of grow going forward. So this might end up being a hot play for the World Championships as well. Keep this one in your back pocket. This is probably the best way to play Arc. But at the same time, I have seen some lists that do cut the Duraludon line, gain some more consistency cards, and maybe add in slacking as well. So some cool techs, some cool ways to kind of bridge from this deck into other decks. Right now, I think this is probably my favorite build of Arc. So if you're looking for that, here we are. We'll see what's coming up next. Not necessarily new to a top 10 list, but newer to this top 10 list. I mean, it's been kind of in the 12th spot for a while. Not on the list is Lost Zone Kyogre. Now, you might be wondering, why is this deck coming back? A lot of decks are very weak against Kyogre when it comes down to it. And as we see a lot of players testing towards the World Championships, I think that this is just an ideal choice, or one of the ideal choices. I mean, Tina's been performing a lot at Cups. Tina's not necessarily as strong against Turbo Lost Zone Box and stuff like that. You don't always need to be the best Lost Zone Box deck to have a good matchup spread. And I think that Kyogre has been like one of those decks that's just been kind of getting a little bit like put too far down. So here we are at number 6. I think this is an excellent choice for the World Championships. Difficult deck to play for sure, but this list to me is probably perfect when it comes down to it. And playing a perfect list at the World Championships is certainly going to be fantastic. By all means, check it out. You're going to love it. As we get into number 5, the halfway point of this list, we have Gardevoir EX. Now, Gardevoir EX, definitely a solid deck and might be a little bit too low on this list. But there are a lot of really cool decks that have jumped into the top 4, and you'll see that very soon, and I have some reasonings why. Gardevoir is just kind of getting countered, and now it's not necessarily as good as what it was. We've kind of hit the counters. As it gets lower, it's going to get countered less, which might actually give Gardevoir the chance to reclaim its spot as the best deck in format. I don't necessarily think this deck has a great Lost Zone Box matchup, nor does it have a lot of great matchups at the top, but it is one of those things to consider as the metagame changes. Our top decks are changing on a week-by-week basis now. There's a lot of the same decks, but they're changing their order and they're changing their builds. Cool thing that I like in this list is Sky Seal Stone. So as you play this deck in tournaments, I think Sky Seal Stone's kind of hot right now, just with the way that the metagame's recently changed. So check it out. I think this is the best way to play Gardevoir right now. Hopefully you all enjoy this list. It's pretty spicy. Moving up a whole bunch is Lugia Single Strike. Now, you might be like, yo, Zach, didn't this deck kind of fall off? Well, when you have a lot of really good matchups at the top, what are you really losing to? I actually think that Lugia is actually one of my top picks for Worlds at this point, the way that the metagame's kind of shaping up. A little bit of a middle-of-the-road deck when it comes down to it. Like, yeah, there's a lot of coin flips. Yeah, there's a lot of just getting set up, but at the same time, double Luminion, Squawkabilly, bunch of stadiums, bunch of supporters, makes this deck pretty consistent. The way that Arceus decks are seeing a lot less play, and a lot of Lost Zone Box decks are seeing a lot of play, makes this a very ideal candidate for the upcoming World Championships, League Cups, League Challenges. I brought this to a League Cup myself, and my only losses were getting turn 2 donked by a Arc Tina deck, and I got paired down against an Aerodactyl V-Star Mawile deck. So going 4-2 in a large field with this deck, I could easily see this deck seeing success at the World Championships. And the other thing, it doesn't really tie games. So that's one other thing you want to be considering when it comes to making these choices. You don't want to be getting those unnecessary ties that can knock you out of the World Championships. And sometimes it's cool just to play a quick deck. Super solid deck overall. Rapid Strike Urshifu is our number 3 spot. It's one of those things where I'd probably put this deck too low before, but it's very well positioned in our current metagame, seeing a lot of success against Lost Zone Box decks. As Gardevoir was the top deck and that was getting countered, this deck seems to have answers against almost every deck in format. And a lot of the counters to this deck are not really seeing a whole bunch of success, so I do think that it is worth the time and effort to be putting some success in here. It's really funny how our format that was once kind of ruled by Lugia, one of the easier decks to play, has turned into all the top decks are very complex decks to play, and this is definitely one of them. This is just Cyrus's list from NAIC, and I do think that you might want to be making some changes to it. I haven't necessarily touched it too much myself, but it is a very valid choice if you are trying to see success in our current metagame. So right now, I think Rapid Strike Urshifu, very hot, very up there. This list is swag. Again, I do want to put out there that the lists are available in the pinned comment, and if they're not in a pinned comment yet, or if you're watching this on a service that doesn't have a pinned comment, it will likely be there soon. In our runner-up spot at number 2, we have Turbo Lawson Box. Now, Turbo Lawson Box typically has enough answers towards the metagame, whether it's being Dark-type to do well against Gardevoir and Mew VMAX, having Dragonite that can quickly knock out Pokemon, and Raikou for a lot of these Palkia V-Star and Lugia V-Star decks. This deck has a lot of really good answers to our current metagame. And yeah, sure, it might not beat Rapid Strike Urshifu very often, and maybe it could, but right now I think that Turbo Lawson Box is very well positioned in our current metagame. So if you haven't been playing this, this to me is the ideal list to be playing. The Trekking Shoes give it that little extra bit of consistency that really allows you to allow this deck to soar. I've been playing this deck with our new TSS member, Tyler, and really just kind of rolling through it, building this deck up. And I mean, I've already won a challenge with it, played it at another cup. This is the go-to list for me. What deck do you think is going to be at our number 1 spot? I'm sure y'all can guess it right now. If not, put your best guess in the comment below. Get it right, it'd be fantastic. Let's jump into our number 1 deck. Climbing up the ranks week over week and being relatively hidden from the metagame and even deceiving me, we have Tina V-Star as our number 1 pick. Why is this deck number 1? Well, you have the option to use Iona or Roxanne with Path to the Peak mid-game with a 280 HP Pokemon that basically you can have 10 in the Lost Zone, knock out a 2-prizer, put your opponent down to next to nothing in their hand, and be like, well, you're probably going to have nothing again. Let's follow this up with a boss and draw 4 prize cards in a period of 2 turns. That succession of drawing prize cards is enough to make a lot of decks unstable in the metagame, and you have a lot of really cool win conditions when it comes to this deck. Even just using Tina V to use Abyss Seeking, getting some extra cards into the Lost Zone, I've seen a lot of ways to make some cool comebacks with this deck. So this deck, there's layers of depth. At the same time, you could also just beat your opponent by putting Path in play and locking them out of the game. So I think a deck like this is just really powerful when it comes down to it. I'm not sure if I like the Pokegears or if I like the Lost Vacuum. Those are really kind of my flex spots right now. But overall, I think that this is a hot list, and I hope that y'all enjoy it. Probably close to a lot of the decks that are seeing success. I'm not a fan of cross-switchers. That could change as we kind of progress through this metagame, but we'll see. I'm going to do some lot more testing. I got 2 League Challenges and 2 League Cups this weekend. Maybe you'll see me playing this deck at some of those. That being said, let me close y'all out. That's what we got going on for our video today. Is Lost Tina the best deck in format? Find out. Let me know. Anything that you want to change, let me know. I think all these decks are absolutely fantastic. A lot of them are decks that I'm testing every single day heading into the World Championships, so stay tuned for more updates. I think we have, I'm looking at the calendar here in front of me, should have another one before the World Championships, maybe another 2 before the World Championships, so stay tuned. A lot of those are going to include some awesome plays, and if you're playing in League Cups and League Challenges, all these lists are absolutely fantastic. That being said, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I'll catch up with all y'all later. Peace out and have a great one. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.